So, A Killing Game, the first book in the Curtis Westcott crime thriller series set in Boston. How did that all come about?
Well, we were in Boston on business and walking around the city, Back Bay, Fenway Park, MIT. We ended up on the Harvard campus, and as we were walking around the campus, I thought, I'm here. You know, you always hear about Harvard and these incredible places that are part of Boston. And there it was, we were surrounded by it. And I thought, you know, this is incredible. I just felt overwhelmed. We even managed to get a table 40 at the Omni Parker House, which was the exact table where JFK proposed to Jacqueline. And you know, that was a pretty special night. So I just loved the city and decided that I wanted to set a book there.
Okay, Boston is the setting. What's next?
Well, we were on the street downtown Boston, and there was a uniform cop. And he was an older guy, probably nearing retirement, and heavy Irish accent. And we got talking to him, and he had so many different stories, and he was just chatty and fun. And I started to think, I'm getting a character here. You know, there's definitely a character forming here.
And who was it?
Well, it wasn't Westcott. It was Aislinn Byrne. And Aislinn is, I would say, Westcott's go-to detective on tough cases. She's absolute dynamite. She's really smart, fit, intimidating, and you would not want to be facing across from her in an interview room. She's absolutely dynamite in an interview.
How did Westcott come about?
I've been very fortunate to link up with a couple of guys who were with the police force up in here in Canada. Derek Curtis, who ended up as a superintendent, and Brian Robertson, who was a homicide cop for his entire career. He literally handled hundreds of cases. And he told me something that stuck. He said that a homicide investigation is a lot like an Easter egg hunt. So you're lined up at the start, you're ready to go, you're anxious, and when the gun goes off, you start to run. And it's pretty easy to run by a clue, an Easter egg. And I thought that I wanted a character who didn't take off quick from the start line, who didn't miss those eggs, those clues, that he just caught pretty much everything and then was methodical and intelligent about putting together an investigation. He's not damaged, he's not alcoholic, he's hardworking, intense, knowledgeable. He's liked by the staff and the other detectives who work with him. He jokes around with them, kids with them, but they know who's boss. Basically, he's a detective who can follow a string of clues and get the solve.
So, what's his belief system?
Well, Westcott's belief system is still intact. With a lot of new detectives, they believe that the system works, and by and large, it does. But over the course of years, when you sit through hundreds, maybe thousands of interviews, and you know the person sitting across from you is lying, and you take all this evidence you've got and you bring it into court, and you say maybe not quite the right thing, and the defense attorney just lights you on fire, that can be like death by 1,000 cuts. And a lot of times, detectives, as they get a bit older, the belief system, their belief in the system starts to wane. And that hasn't happened to Westcott yet.
So what about Aislinn?
Well, with Westcott taking shape, it allowed me to spend some time with Aislinn's character. Again, she's fit, dynamic, really good in the interview room, very Irish, short red hair. And I listen to a lot of music while I'm writing, from Guns N' Roses to the Eurythmics, and it suddenly hit me that Aislinn reminds me of Annie Lennox.
Like that?
Yeah, exactly like that.
So what about Stan Lammers?
Stan is a fan favorite right out of the gate. I didn't see it coming, but everybody who reads the book and the subsequent books, they just absolutely love Stan. He's 6'4", African-American with a build like a NFL linebacker. He's a family guy, but he looks more like a biker than a cop. And he's the guy who's at home at night talking to Curtis on the phone about a case, and yelling at his kids in the background not to put metal stuff in the microwave. And Stan, I don't know, he gets all the good lines, sort of like the villain in a Bond movie.
So now that the characters are ready, let's get into the book.
Well, Renee Charlebois is a daughter of a wealthy, influential man in Boston, and she's been abducted. The reader knows that Liam Kilt has taken her and knows where she is. They don't know why. It's very easy for the detectives to miss the clues that Kilt has left. And that has happened in other cities where Kilt has actually taken women and kept them for 2 weeks and then killed them. What he is doing is leaving clues to crimes that he's committed in the past in different cities and that he's going to commit in the future, again in different cities. And most, well, all of the detectives in the other cities, Napa Valley, Chicago, Los Angeles, they missed the clues. Well, Westcott doesn't. He picks up on it. And as he and Stan and Aislinn start to dig in, they discover that she's been abducted and she has 2 weeks to live, and then Kilt is going to kill her. It's a race against time.
So it fits the genre. It's a thriller.
It is. I would call it a catch me if you can caper. It's a race to the finish, right to the last page. Reviewer Becky Baldridge, I thought, summed it up quite well. She said that it's a twisted and tangled roller coaster ride of a story, and while it's the Curtis Westcott show, the author has given us a great cast of supporting characters.
Sounds intriguing. Anything else before we wrap up?
Well, I'd like to thank international thriller writers and all of the people, mostly authors, who devote their time to Thriller Fest and all the other things that go on inside ITW. And I'd especially like to thank the organization for the nomination. It's really appreciated.
Is that you?
Yeah, that is me, with Sandra Brown and Heather Graham, Thriller Fest 1, 2006 in Phoenix. It's been a great ride.